Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Torchwood episode, Captain Jack Harkness, written by Catherine Tigana and is directed by Ashley Way. Yes, the guy who directed the TARDISOs. He's made his first full-length episode debut. So that's some pretty exciting stuff. This story does a lot for the canonical of the series. It establishes a few things for the franchise. It pushes other plot lines further, and it also is the start of a series of stories which are back to back, essentially, because the after effects of this story delves right into the next story. That story ends on a cliffhanger that goes into the next story. That story is then a sort of prologue to a two-parter. That two-parter also leads into a cliffhanger, and in between that, there's also a mini episode. So, that's really interesting in that line of thought. So it's kind of a start of of this kind of plot line that follows these characters around. It follows Jack specifically, as you will see why. And so, yeah. Now this story does have its fans. It's one of those stories which seem to be split down the middle. I can find a lot of people I know love this story. However, there are a handful of people, I should say a group of people, who really don't like this story. And so there's a kind of clash in the fandom. Not like a big clash. Nobody's like arguing. It's like, you don't like this episode? Well, bugger you. Or, you love this episode? Well, bugger you. But there are people who love it or hate it. So I would like to say that more people like it than hate it, but I'm not too sure on that. So there you go. So shall we get into the episode at hand? The story starts off very well. In fact, it might even be my favourite pre-credit sequence of the first series of Torchwood. Jack and Toshika are going into what seems to be an abandoned a dance hall. And Jack is having a reminiscence of his time during World War II, because as we've seen in Doctor Who, he spent a majority of time there. And presumably he spent more time in there when he went back in time and has gotten stuck in the present time, which are events which we had not seen or learnt about really, but have had hints about prior to this episode. And so Jack is like reminiscence. There's been details of people hearing ghost music, specifically music from the 1940s, just playing loudly in there, but no sign of anybody at the building. So Jack and Toshika go in to investigate, and Jack seems to be having a blast. He's enjoying reliving his old memories, and Toshika, she's kind of like nervous. Well, I wouldn't say nervous, but she's a lot more like head in the game. She worries that Jack might damage her laptop, and she basically just wants to get in and get out. However, they go down. What a really cool scene. They go down the stairs and they listen to music. They head back upstairs, where then the hall is just full of people in period setting clothing listening to 1940s pop music. And so Jack and Toshika are like, okay, this is really weird. So they go outside, only for now it to be night time. And it clicks to Jack. What is happening? Has someone been stealing people for out of time to here? And Jack's like, no, we are the ones that have been stolen and been sent to the 1940s during the height of the Blitz. And that's our credits. And that's when our credit rolls. That just automatically, it sets up the stakes, it sets up the atmosphere of the story. It has a kind of, I'm trying to think of the word, some smoothness to it, of the narrative, because this story does have a villain. It does have a somebody that, the torture team have to stop, but he's not really the focus of the narrative. The narrative, for the most part, is about Jack and Toshika not only trying to figure out how to get back, but also as well trying to fit in here and blend in. And this becomes even more of an issue when one of the soldiers, he takes Toshika out for a dance, but Toshika clearly just is not comfortable. She doesn't seem like the type of person who would date around and stuff, as we've seen in episodes like Greeks Bearing Gifts. Toshika is normally the quiet one. She does have a wild side to her, like we saw in that episode, but for the most part, she's someone who likes to keep to herself. And Jack gets soaked up in the atmosphere, but he's he might have seen that Toshika is uncomfortable, or maybe he just wants her to figure out a way to get back. But anyway, he basically tries to take Toshika off the guy, where the guy then is aggressive towards Jack, punches him, and they have a little scrap, only to be told off by another captain, who is the soldier, his captain. And he seems to settle everybody down, calm everybody down, and he introduces himself to our main characters. His name is Captain Jack Harkness. What? This is then the main focus of the story, essentially. Essentially, the rest of the characters are mainly trying to push the narrative forward. Toshika basically goes on a hunt to try and get information to modern times. She writes down what she needs to do on her laptop after it's low on battery. She takes a photo of it so that it'll last longer, and she hides it so that the torture team in the future can find it. This story has a back of the ranch storytelling in which it keeps cut in between two different plot lines, which do tie again up in the middle, at the end. Sorry. Here we have the 40s with Jack and Toshika, and then in modern day we have Owen, Gwen, and Yanto obviously trying to figure it out. And even still, there is also another back of the ranch storytelling in that, as Gwen goes into the building to investigate and meets up with the manager there, who we'll get onto. But also Owen and Yanto, they have their own little plot as well, as they question to each other. It's like, should we open the rift? It's too dangerous. It's the only way to get Jack and Toshika back from the 1940s, and that becomes like a big concern from that subplot. So there's a lot of things going on here, and we'll take it one step at a time. Toshika here, I think, the story seems to want us to focus more on her. I mean, this is one of the few times that her and Jack get split off from the rest of the tortured team, and so Jack and Toshika are essentially mainly supposed to be the main focus. But apart from really trying to set up this plot of trying to get the equation back to the modern day so they can open the rift safely, Toshika doesn't really have much of a story here. There is this sense that because she's Japanese, some people there might not trust her. In fact, that does culminate in one scene in which a woman confronts her about her heritage, and because this is World War II, and people are a bit on the old side, shall we say. This woman kind of has a go at Toshika, and she's a very nervous character, and she just doesn't really know what to say, what to do, and obviously she's trying to hide the fact that she has a computer, a laptop in her bag. She can't show everybody, making characters more nervous. But Jack, he settles that plot line down, and then it's never really brought up again. Like, it's just like, okay, mindsets like that existed in those times, and we established that, and then nothing else comes from that, which is kind of odd. Like, I kind of understand if they didn't bring it up, and that they kept their character to this one focus, but or maybe go full depth into this and just talk about like how sucky it is to be a Japanese living in Britain during this time, and this could show Toshika in a whole new light. But instead, it does a little bit and then just stops. And I did kind of think that was a kind of a missed opportunity on her part. Another character which is kind of there is Gwen. Gwen goes in to investigate with with the manager, Billis Major, sorry. This very awfully put in character, and the torture team in the present day quickly discover that the same man has been seen during the 1940s. They find a photo of Jack and Toshika with this man and with the other Captain Jack. And I love Billis Major in this story. He's this very camp but very mysterious character. I also love as well how, like, you can see that, like, there's no delay in his voice. If something happens, he reacts to it extremely quickly, giving him a very suspicious feeling. But you do kind of get the feeling that because he reacts to everything like this, it's like, is he hiding something, or is this just how he is? Is he alien, or is he just or is he something more, or is he something less? Like, what is he? And to bring out the elephant in the room, which will kind of tie in with the next story we tackle with, Billis Major is a character that was set up to be a big, prominent character in the series of Torchwood. But after series 1, he will never appear again in the televised stories, leaving his character with this massive question mark on just who the hell he is. And I know he returns in an audio drama. I don't know if we learn anything more about him. But personally, I love the fact that this is this mysterious villain we know nothing about and we don't learn anything about. Like, we get himpits, we get little ideas, and that's about it. And our team, like, the focus isn't really on him, but mainly trying to get the Torchwood team back. But the fact that he's a player in this, and the fact, like, nobody knows what exactly his plans are, then, or at least why he's doing it, then there's that mystery, that build-up, and every time you think about these episodes, you're like, who is he? And it's kind of, I guess it's imagining like how the Doctor was first seen when everybody first saw him during the first episode of An Unearthly Child. That kind of mysterious eeriness about him. Billy Major is the first Doctor, confirmed. He's a satanic worshipping character version of the first Doctor. That would be hilarious if that was the case, but no. But like I said, Gwen, she finds out that this character was back in those times and is still alive today, and she doesn't really have that much to do apart from really just backtracking all of Toshika's work. She finds the picture, but some of the equation is missing, so she goes looking around, where she finds another piece of the equation, which happens at the end of the episode from Toshika's point of view, and she just relays that information to Yanto and Owen. So then Yanto and Owen's plot line is probably the second most interesting plotline here, at least the second most focused here, and is where mainly a lot of the drama, a lot of the conflict comes from in this story. This story is set up in a very odd way because the main plot, the stuff with Jack and stuff, there isn't that much conflict there. And what Catherine Tigana has done in this episode is put all that confrontation, all of that arguing, all of that confrontation in the second plot of the story, which means that story, despite being not the main focus of the episode, feels like it gets a lot more focus than it does. And that's a really interesting way of setting up a narrative. I don't think I've ever tackled a Doctor Who story that has dealt its narrative like this. And what this does is that it means the narrative is a lot interested in these two plot lines, and they don't overlap each other because one is dealing with the more sweeter moments, the more kinder moments, or at least there is drama and there is conflict there, but not against two characters in this way. The conflict is we'll get onto that when we talk about Jack and Jack. But with Yanto and Owen, there seems to be a really hard hitting argument there to be had, as Owen is basically torn up after the events of Out of Time, and has been pushed to his limits after the events of Combat. He essentially goes, right, Jack and Toshika are trapped back in time. I'm going to open the rift using the rift machine to bring them back. And clearly part of his motivation is that hopefully if we push our limits to learn more about the rift, we can then bring Diana Holmes back. But Yanto kind of sees that that Owen is doing this because of that reason, and he also knows that what he's doing is a massive risk which can tear the fabric of space and time, and so he's basically stopping him, or at least trying to slow him down so that they can get the right information before opening the rift. And so that becomes a major issue, and that all culminates in a scene in which Yanto has to basically fire at Owen. A lot of things have been said to each character, which really makes you understand their point of views. With Yanto basically confronting Owen about his relationship with Diana. It's like, you're just doing this because you loved her and that you think this will bring her back, but it will not. So don't risk it. All you're doing is just putting everybody at risk. It won't bring your girlfriend back. But then this also taunts Owen to basically hit back. And we get a reference to the episode Cyberwomen with Owen. Basically, it's like, how dare you tell me about the risks about bringing my girlfriend back, whilst you brought a bloody Cyberman technically, into our base because you thought you can bring her back, and you put all of our lives at jeopardy. And though Ianto tries to, like, they're not the similar things, you know, you only met Diana for a few weeks, whilst Lisa in that story, I think her name was Lisa, I can't remember, they were a couple for a long time, and they know each other and all that. But Owen doesn't see that, and so he tries to get the machine working, and he believes that there might be some more information at the ball, at the dance thing where Gwen is. So he goes there, he snoops around Billis Major's office, where he finds a part of the rift machine. Like, he doesn't question why it's there, which is very odd. It's like, but I guess, you know, they already established he's this. He has some sort of control over the rift, and he is in some way a part of it, and maybe it's like it's beyond our understanding. But so Owen takes the device and hides it, not telling Gwen, who have like an awkward meeting in the hall where they go their separate ways. A slight little nod to their affair during the middle of the series, and so that plot line basically culminates in Owen putting the rift machine on, to which Ianto shoots him in the shoulder, and the rift opens up. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention as well that it's established that before they got the last message, Billis Major actually found the last message, which Toshika wrote in blood so that it doesn't fade away, and he scratched a little bit of the detail. So clear, and he put it back. He hid it back where Toshika originally hid it, meaning that he wanted Torchwood to find it. He wants Torchwood to open the rift, but he doesn't want the exact combination, the exact information. He wants them to miss something on purpose for the fact of, for the main focus of what he wants. And that is a very interesting plot, because technically in this story, he wins. Like, they don't find anything about him. He gets his plan. It kind of makes this have like a one-parter feel, because the next story will have him again in it, and thing. But I did this story on its own because I feel like, with the exception of Billis Major and tying into the rift opening segment of the story, like the main focus of this narrative is the World War II stuff, which then gets into our main plot line, which is the two Jacks. This is where most of the emotions come in. Jack, our Jack, he kind of fits in. He feels very comfortable in this ballroom setting, and he actually quickly befriends this other Jack. But this leads to some awkward questions with Toshika, and we learn something which was never actually established before, something which a lot of fans didn't really thought of. Like, how did he blend in during World War II, during the events of the Empty Child and the Doctor Dances? Well, it turns out Captain Jack is not actually his real name. He stole the name after he discovered that someone had passed away with that name, and so, without even thinking about it, he just changed the record so he didn't die, and then he took over the name, so that from all record purposes it's the same Jack, but he stole his name, and this is the man he stole the name from. But they seem to be getting along very friendly, but Jack is very torn, because he learns to really befriend his character and really care for him, but he knows that tomorrow, the day after the ball, he's going to die. It's the time when Jack comes into the story and takes his name. So here we get another big question mark on Jack. Not only do we learn about his history, about his past, but we also learn that Captain Jack Harkness isn't actually his real name. That is incredibly interesting there, I think. And for those of you interested, his real name, was actually revealed in the audio drama series The Lives of Captain Jack, which I think it's either the first one or the last one in volume 1, I recall. It's like, I can't remember his name, Janus Pronthane, something like that. I'm not going to be tackling those stories, sadly, but just letting you know, his canonical name has been established. So that's a mystery that has dissipated over time, which is very unusual. Like, we rarely does Doctor Who have a mystery like that and actually follows it through. So, just, very it's very interesting that Jack's his name, just like the Doctor, is a question mark for a small moment in time, and that was that kind of made the characters a little bit more similar. In fact, the Doctor does get a mention in this story in when Toshika is like, "You're really used to here. You've been here before," and Jack is like, "Yes, I was. I was here." And then when Toshika is like, "So then, how were you like in modern day?" Jack mentions how his friend saved his life during World War II, and then they've had many adventures until Jack died, and then somehow he was brought back, and he doesn't know why, but he feels like there's a purpose. There's a reason why he has been resurrected, like his entire life has been leading up to something, sort of destiny-like. At least that's how he feels, and that's a very interesting dynamic. But the main focus in here is the relationship between the two Jacks. We quickly learn that the real Jack, he has a sort of girlfriend in a sense, but you can feel there's this awkward energy about them. It's like they want to like each other, they want to get along and be a relationship, but something is holding them back. And slowly do we learn that, we get the feeling that it's mainly Jack pushing her away, and she kind of was in love with him, or is in love with him, but something is stopping her. We are led to believe it's the war, and our Jack, he tries to convince the other one to basically, it's like, live your day to the last moment, because it could be tomorrow might be your last day. So go to her, kiss her, live like every moment for it. And Jack then goes up and kisses her before she leaves. But then she tells him that she loves him, and according to the real Jack, that's only made things 10 times worse. And Jack here, I think he can get the feeling, like they have these glares, these looks with each other, and there's this sort of energy between the two men, and that all culminates in a scene. Like, there's scenes where it's like they argue about this topic. It's like, live your day to the last. But Jack is like, I can't. I've got to be mature. I've got to look after my men. I'm a captain. I'm responsible. And Jack's just like, yes, you're responsible, but believe me, they will be fine. Just live your moment, because you could die as well. And so this all culminates in a scene in which the two men are alone, and our Jack thought that the real Jack had gone, but he'd come back because he listened to what Jack said. Live every moment to the last. Enjoy what you have now. And then the men hold hands. This is a story about love. this is the story of a homosexual man trapped in the 1940s in an environment in a world where I don't need to remind you, but if you don't know, homosexuality was considered a crime back then. You could be sent to prison for being denoted as a homosexual, and so that kind of puts this really awkward situation on hold. And Jack quickly learns about this, and they soon get evacuated to a bomb shelter, where Toshika then makes her final message to the future of the Torchwood team. But the two Jacks are looking at each other's room from the other side of the room, because now Jack knows like his situation. It's like the men are kind of fallen in love, and this all culminates in a scene where after the bombs all go off and all that, the Jack is talking to Toshika, and he's like breaking down. It's like this man is gonna he's gonna die tomorrow. I'm gonna take his name, and that'll be it. He'll just be a footnote in my past, not realizing that this man was such a kind and loving individual. And so the other Jack basically learning from our Jack that you gotta live your moment to the end. You know, you can't hide yourself. You can't act like you've got other days to come, because any day could be your last. And so what I think is really great in terms of writing is that it was the real Jack, the Jack from the 1940s, that asks our Jack for a dance, not the other way around. This shows that this Jack has gained his confidence. He has changed throughout the story thanks to the influence of the Torchwood Jack. And so our story has the actual narrative ends with the two men dancing, basically teasing a kiss, but the rift starts opening, and Toshika is like, "Come on, Jack, we gotta go," and this like tears the two men apart, because Jack has to go and he can't, but he's fallen for this man, and the person that he loves. He, like Owen will have a relationship torn because of the rift. And originally Jack starts heading off, but before he leaves, he goes back and snogs and kisses, and so the two Jacks establish their love in the story, and then our Torchwood team then get back to modern day, and we basically like have this little moment of Owen is like, he's like recovering his own wound, which, can I just say, like, Owen like treats himself like he has a shotgun wound not shotgun wound, but he has a gunshot in his shoulder, a bullet in his shoulder, and he is the one that does it himself. That's messed up. Is Owen that hardcore? Is he that like extreme that he would treat himself to a gunshot? Like, that is pretty like mad. Like, is he the only one with first aid? That's messed up. Like, and the story ends with Jack and Toshika having a drink, and Toshika reassuring Jack that he would be honoured for you to take his name, because now his name will live on as a hero. And they have a drink, and that ends our story. But like I said, the groundwork for the rest of the episodes is still there. So there you go, that's Captain Jack Harkness. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I felt like there might have been a bit too much plot lines. Like I felt like not that each plot line is bad. Like the confrontational aspects between Yanto and Owen is very interesting. The stuff with Jack and Jack is very interesting. It's just really the main trying to get everyone back with Gwen and Toshika. I found like that sometimes halted the story a bit, but the relationship between the two Jacks is the heart of the story, and this story does that element extremely well. The Ashley Wade does a fantastic job at getting us invited into the 1940s setting, and despite it only having a handful of locations, like really we don't even leave the building apart from the street outside, but apart from that we never really leave this area, but we feel like we're in World War II. It's a very great environment, and Ashley Wade does some fantastic directing work here. And yeah, like mainly it's my problems are nitpicky. This story establishes Billy Major, and even though I wish he'd had a little bit more to do, I do love the fact that his character is very mysterious, very in the shadows, and is basically is one step ahead of everybody, and to the point where I don't even think the torture team even like sort of know that he's the villain, or at least Jack and Toshika don't know that he is the main villain at this point. So that's extremely interesting. So yeah, I'm one of the people who really enjoyed this story. I say highly check it out. It's a very great story. It it's one of the very few stories in which Jack has Jack has a lot of like relationships, but this is one of the few times that he has at least in series 1 where he has a relationship. It's very nice to see that, something which I think becomes prominent in series 2. I'm not quite sure because I haven't seen much season 2 at this point. Looking forward to that. But there are people who don't like this story, not like hate it or anything, but aren't too keen on it. And they're entitled to their opinions. But I personally enjoy it, so I say check it out, and hopefully you'll enjoy it just like me. So there you go, that's Torchwood Captain Jack Harkness. So join me next time for another episode of Torchwood. Yes, we're going to lead straight into the finale as the rift is opening. It's cracking up, and time is being skewed as things from the past and from the future have been sent all to modern day Cardiff, and the world, it seems like it's going. The apocalypse is now. So join me next time for the end of days, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!